Oh God, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham va'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata ve'ad olam. Oh God, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome everyone. Shabbat Shalom, Cantor
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Bernstein.
I am so delighted to be here with all of you who are with us in the sanctuary to celebrate the wonderful occasion on which Owen is going to be called to the Torah for the first time as a Bar Mitzvah. And I know we have so many people watching us, both on our live streaming and on Zoom from Austin, Texas, from Ann Arbor. I'm sure I'm leaving people out. Other places in Michigan, yes, nodding, good, absolutely. So we're so delighted to welcome all of you, and we encourage you to join us in song and in worship. And Cantor Shochet is going to tell you about how you can do that if you're not here in the sanctuary with us.
So if you're watching on Zoom, in the chat, you're going to see a link that our Zoom host just put in there now that you can click on and follow along in the prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah. If you're watching on our streaming site, right above the player window is a copy of an icon that looks like our prayer book. Just click on that. It'll open a separate window. And of course, here in the sanctuary, the prayer books are in the first row under your seats and everyone else right in front of you. And I hope that you all follow along. Join in Owen's readings, in our chanting as we make this a holy time and a real community for you, Owen.
Well, our hearts are so full, Owen, of blessings for you today, everybody here in the sanctuary, everybody who's watching at home. And I know there are two people here whose hearts are filled to overflowing, your mom and your dad, and they want to give you their private blessing. So I'm going to invite you to stand with your mom and dad, with Jen and with Steve, while they give you some private words of blessing.
To a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach. To a land that I will show you. Lech lecha. To a place you do not know. Lechi, your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. We turn in our prayer books now to page 224, and we join together in chanting the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach herutei ve'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'yomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו Amen. On the next page, page 225, let's read together here in the sanctuary, and I hope you'll join us at home. There are times when the love of God burns so powerfully within your heart that the words of prayer seem to rush forth quickly and without deliberation. At such times, it is not you yourself who speak. Rather, it is through you that the words are spoken. And now, Owen, I invite you to come to the podium and to help us lead the next section of our service. We turn to page 226, and please rise.
We continue with the tefillah. Please join me as we chant the prayers on the next few pages together. Adonai sefatai tiftra ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imatenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Hastei Avot v'Imahot, u'miveh geula lifnei v'neihem, leman shemo be'achava. Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. We continue in responsive prayer on page 229. Our fathers and mothers prayed, each to their own experience of God, each to their own visions which we have come to share.
Abraham, with the fervor of justice, pleaded the cause of cities. Sarah, in the pain of waiting, dared to hope for new life.
Isaac, meditating alone in the field, lifted his eyes to find love. Rebekah asked for the ability to discern God's call.
Jacob climbed the rungs of his night into heaven, seeking destiny. Leah dreamed of love, and Rachel sought harmony.
We, as they, seek God's presence. We continue together on page 230 with Giverot. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, mehayeh hakol, ata rav lehoshia, morid hatal, mehalkel hayim behesed, mehayeh hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim ve'ofeh holim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melah, melech memit umechayei, umatzmiach Yeshua, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. We continue responsively on the next page. Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good and not evil.
You are the source of life and blessing. Help us to choose life for ourselves and our children.
You are the support of the falling. Help us to lift up the fallen.
You are the author of freedom. Help us to free the captive.
You are our hope in death as in life. Help us to keep faith with those who sleep in the dust.
Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good.
For blessing and not for curse, for life and not death, for abundance, not want. We continue with the Kedusha on page 232.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גאולך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
To all generations we will declare your greatness, and for all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Cha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Our service continues on page 234. Ata echad v'shincha echad, umi k'amcha Yisrael, goy echad ba'aretz, tiferet gedula va'ateret Yeshua, yom menucha u'kdushaha, le'amcha natata, Avraham v'Sara yagilu, Yitzchak v'Rivka yarinenu, Yaakov v'Rachel v'Leah, uvnehem yanuhu, menuchat atava umdava, menucha emet ve'emunah, menucha shelema sha'ata, rotze ba, yakiru vanecha ve'eruhu, ki meitcha menuchatam, ve'al menuchatam yakdishu, et shemecha. Please join me responsively on page 235. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and hands, we give praise.
For the peace in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For the gift of Shabbat, which renews us for life, we offer blessing. Owen, you're welcome to have a seat. We continue on the top of page 236. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael. Find favor, Adonai our God, with your people Israel, and accept their prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your Spirit upon us. We continue on page 239. For the gift of our souls, for the promise of our lives, for all we are and all we might yet become, for the creative seeds sown within our minds, whose nurturing can yield a grand harvest. For all these gifts we thank you, O God, and pray that we prove ourselves worthy. Please join me. May our lives be ripe with the fruit of compassion, sweetly sustaining those in need. May we use our gifts wisely and with love, true messengers of blessing to the world. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulcha na'eh lahodot. We continue on page 240 with Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Atahu Melech Adon Lechol Hashalom Hashalom. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha, levarech et amcha Yisrael. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai Hamevarech et amo Yisrael And as we have just prayed our prayer for peace for our world, for all of us, we take time now to find peace in our own hearts, and we pray silently. Shalom bimromav יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן ואמרו amen. Well, we've come now to the central part of our service this afternoon, Owen, where you'll be reading from the Sefer Torah, reading from the book of Numbers, the portion called B'cha'alotecha. At a mincha service, which is what this is now, you actually begin the next week's Torah portion. So this is the first time we're hearing this Torah portion today, and we'll read it all the way through next Shabbat. The Torah portion has special ceremony to it, and part of that includes handing the Torah from the generations down to you, Owen. And so we're so excited that here in the sanctuary with us are your 4 grandparents. How great it is. So I want to say first hello to Suzanne and Bill Cannon, who are here in our front row. How wonderful it is for you to be here with us on this Shabbat. And to Chuck and Hannah Lefton, who are sitting behind you, Owen, and you are a 3rd generation Temple Road of Shalom person, and that is a really cool thing to be. So we're excited about that. We welcome the 4 grandparents here, and as a special treat, we have your great-grandfather who is in Detroit, Irv Lefton, on Zoom. There he is. You can look behind you and see Irv. Irv, can you wave to us? Can you see us and wave? He might not hear us, but we see him, and that is really great. Irv, mazel tov to you. And so we're so excited that he can be part of this service, even virtually from Detroit. And here we are, Owen. All of your family is surrounding you, whether it's on Zoom or here in the sanctuary, and we're so grateful for that. So we're going to actually invite you to take your place here in front of the bima, along with your parents and your grandparents, as your dad takes the special Torah. This Torah, is 350 years old, so don't drop it. It is a Torah that is very special because it has seen a lot of history, and you will get to hold it like so many others before you, as we sing together those special words of the Shema. So I'm going to invite everyone to rise and ask the grandparents to take their place here, and Steve and Jen and Owen to begin this Torah service. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein kemasecha malechutecha malechut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor vador. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein kemasecha malechutecha malechut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor vador.
Owen, may you cherish the message of this Torah. It is a guidebook passed down from generations of Jews before you who have kept Judaism alive. We take great pride this day in your acceptance of Torah. This responsibility requires strength, knowledge, commitment, and love. Today you have brought these qualities to the Jewish people, and therefore you are part of the link of the chain of Jewish tradition. May you embrace Torah your whole life.
Thank you, Jen. And Owen, as you hold that Torah, that special Torah, please join with us as we all sing the words of our people, the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Shemo. Owen, you can hand the Torah back to your dad, and I invite everyone to please seated as Owen, you and your mom begin to get the Torah ready that you're going to read from. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz Lecha Adonai הממלכה והעמיד נעשה לך לראש. Owen, why don't you tell us what your Torah portion's about?
The Torah portion for this Shabbat that I'll be reading is called Bechalaheta. It comes from the book of Numbers, and my Hebrew reading begins with chapter 11, verse 1. In this portion, the Israelites complain of wanting to eat something other than the manna that God has provided.
Great. And now we're going to invite your grandparents, Chuck and Hannah, over to stand with you for the first Aliyah blessings. Ya'amdu ha'olim la'aliyah Torah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayehi cha'am kemitonanim ra be'oznei Adonai. Vayishma Adonai vayichar apo vativar bam esh Adonai vatochal b'ksech hamachaneh. Vayitzak ha'am el Moshe vayitpaleh Moshe El Adonai vatishchach ha'esh vayikra shem hamakom hahu tavera ki va'aravam esh Adonai.
Beautiful job, Owen. Yeshkoach. Chuck and Hannah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torat emes v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Yeshkoach. Chuck and Hannah. Chuck, you know, if you're looking for another career, cantorial school is still has possibilities for you. You really know the blessings well. I'm really pleased. Beautiful. And you guys can have a seat if you would like. And now we're going to go to Zoom to your aunt and uncle Owen, your great aunt and your great uncle Owen, Jerry and Karen Jacknow in Austin, Texas, who we see on the screen. And so we're going to invite them, Jerry and Karen, Ya'amdu ha'olim la'aliyah Torah, to lead the blessings.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ve'achav safsuf asher bekerbo hitavu ta'ava vayashuvu vayivku gam b'nei Yisrael vayomiru miya'ahilenu basar zaharnu et hadaga asher nachal b'mitzrayim hinam et hakishuim ve'et chavatihim ve'et hatzir ve'et betzalim ve'et hashumim ve'ata nafshenu yevasha en kol Bilti el chaman einenu.
Beautiful job, Owen. And now Jerry and Karen, won't you lead us in the blessings after?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yashikoach. Beautifully done. And now, Owen, for your third aliyah of the Torah, we get to call you by your Hebrew name for the first time as a bar mitzvah. Ya'amod, 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 Habachur habar mitzvah, Asher Yitzchak ben Simcha Jennifer la'aleh Torah, Chazak.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
V'chaman kizragad hu, ve'eino ke'ein chabedola. Shatu cha'am velaktu, ve'tachanu varechayim. O dachu bamdocha, uvishluhu baparur, ve'asuhu oto ugot, ve'chaya ta'amo, Keta'am leshad hashamen, uvredet chatal al chamachaneh laila, yered chaman alav, vayishma Moshe et ha'am, boche lemishpechotav, ish lefeta ochalo, vayichar af Adonai meod. Uv'einei Moshe ra.
Nice job. Beautiful, Owen. And now the blessing after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Wow, Yashikoach. Owen beautifully chanted your Torah portion. That is just wonderful. Great job. And also your prayers too. Everything you've done superbly well. And now all of your Hebrew is done. So we're going to hear your speech in just a moment. But first, your brother and sister have been patiently waiting for their moment in this service. So we're going to invite Dylan and Caitlin to join you at the Torah. Caitlin to help dress the Torah as we all rise. You can take your mask off if you would like. And we sing together the words of V'zot HaTorah. V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe.
Please be seated, everyone, except Owen for you. We are really looking forward to hearing you teach us today and to hearing your Devar Torah.
In my Torah portion, the Israelites complain that they don't have enough food. The Israelites want to go back to Egypt, but instead God sends them manna. Both God and Moses are disappointed at their reactions. The Israelites were very unhappy with the manna, but they decided to make the most of it and turned it into cakes that they said their new cakes tasted like a delicious, rich cream. This shows that the Israelites made the best out of a very bad situation. I'm sure that many of you have found ways to make the best out of a bad situation in the past 14 months. The global pandemic has been hard on everyone, and it forced us to change our daily activities. Some of the changes were rough, but we were able to find some good in the changes too. Before COVID hit, my dad was gone a lot for work, and I would sometimes only see him on weekends. Then he would be off again that Monday for another work trip. But then, once everything got shut down, he got to stay home a lot more, even if it was hard for him to work from home. My family and I were also happy that he got to stay home. My dad and I did so much stuff together, from learning how to make sushi and pizza on the grill to going on long bike rides and playing basketball or football. We watched a lot of classic movies, including the entire Rocky series, in 2 weeks. We also spent countless hours in the car together, going on road trips to places I've never been. We also spent long days fishing and staying on the beach, and even got to do some scuba diving together. An additional good change was learning a new skill. During the summer, my brother and sister decided that they wanted to play guitar. I wasn't interested in it at first, so I decided that I was going to do my own thing. Eventually, I decided to give the guitar a try, and I learned my first song. Then I got hooked on it and decided to start playing the guitar and taking lessons. I'm still playing the guitar now, and I have improved a lot at it, and I'm almost catching up to my brother. My Torah portion was a reminder of what the last 14 months have been like, and how I was able to make the most of quarantine. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the ways that the pandemic taught us about the inequalities in the American experiences. During COVID, many people have been struggling financially, emotionally, and physically, and they're having a hard time, and some of them are in very bad situations. For my Bar Mitzvah project, I wanted to help the people that are struggling, and in particular, children. Children living in homeless shelters that had limited access to staff, activities, and more throughout quarantine. For my project, I made anti-boredom kits for the kids that are living in a local homeless shelter. In my kits, I provided the art supplies and the directions for how to make a jellyfish. It provided young children an activity to do that they otherwise wouldn't have. We also donated fun activity books like Mad Libs, along with pencils, crayons for various ages. I did this because I know that they are struggling right now, and these activities may help them relax and keep their minds off what's going on around them. I also wanted them to be able to make the best out of a very bad situation. I really hope that it helped them and brought joy into their lives. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the following people. My amazing tutor, Nava Fader, for guiding me through all of this and making sure that I was fully prepared for today. My Aunt Karen and Uncle Jerry for doing my second Aliyah with me. My Nana and Papa for doing my first Aliyah with me and supporting me throughout this amazing experience. My grandmother and grandfather for always being there for me and supporting me. I would also like to thank my mom for always helping me and working so hard for my family and always supporting me. Dad, thank you for always listening to my Hebrew and helping me with it and guiding me through it. My brother Dylan, thank you for teaching me all about life and always helping me through it. My sister Caitlin, thank you for putting up with me for the past 9 years, but also always being so sweet and caring and always helping me. Lastly, I would like to thank the clergy and staff of Temple Road of Shalom for being here throughout my religious education, starting from preschool through today. I know there is still more to learn in the future. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Owen, please have a seat. You've earned it. Thank you so much, Mazal Tov. As Kenner Shakit said, you did such a beautiful job of leading us in prayer, of chanting Torah, and before the service began, you said, I can't believe this day is finally here, because I know you've been working towards it so hard for such a long time. And I hope that the memories that you have from today will always be so sweet to you because of the love that surrounds you and the love that you showed by the way you led prayers and chanted Torah and interpreted the Torah, the love for our tradition that you showed. So I thank you so much. And I also want to thank you for the insight that you gave me about this Torah portion that I had not seen before, because you really focused on the fact that the cakes that they made from the manna tasted like rich, delicious cream. And I never thought about that before. I was only, sort of focused on the other part of the Torah portion. So I thank you for that, and for shining a light on the fact that the Israelites, even with the complaining, were able to make the best of a not very good situation. And I also wanted to thank you for reminding us that while for most of us, making the best of a bad situation over the last 14 months, it's been inconvenient, it's been difficult, but for some, it's been almost impossible. So what you did for your mitzvah project is so important in that way. So I wanted to build a little bit on what you said and take it in a bit of a different direction. We know that the Israelites throughout the book of Numbers, seems like they're doing nothing but complaining. Poor Moses, right? Poor God. And in your Torah portion, they're even saying, we want to go back to Egypt where they were slaves, for goodness sakes, because the food was better. It seems like they're doing nothing but complaining. I would like to suggest that maybe sometimes complaining and being stubborn might have their place as well. So you're nodding. Okay, so thank you. I'm glad you agree with me. So you might remember that in the Torah, about 6 times, the Israelites are called a stiff-necked people. And this is not a good thing in the Torah, right? But I wonder if being a stiff-necked people, that's what I'm going to suggest, has a lot to do with our longevity as a people, maybe as much as those descriptions of the Jewish people that are a little bit easier on our ears. People of the book, God's treasured people, light to the nation. I would almost put stiff-necked people on that list, and I'll tell you why. So the word for neck in that way, oref, comes from the agricultural world, and it describes an animal that demonstrates a rebellious resistance to the yoke. And in a person, of course, it means somebody who's stubborn or obstinate. So it's pretty clear in the Torah that it's not good to be stiff-necked. But we know that Torah and our tradition are not always so simple. So you might remember the little incident with the golden calf in the book of Exodus, not one of our finer moments as a people, right? And Moses is trying to plead with God on behalf of the people, and Moses bows down in front of God, and Moses says to God, if I have gained your favor, God, please go in our midst. Ki, that's the Hebrew word, this is a stiff-necked people. Pardon our iniquity and our sin and take us for your own. So that little word, ki, is usually translated as because, but most translations of this verse say even though this is a stiff-necked people, please pardon our iniquity. But what if we translated ki the way it normally is as because? And then it would read as follows. Moses saying to God, because this is a stiff-necked people, pardon our iniquity and sin and take us for your own. So I'm wondering if maybe Moses was arguing that this perceived weakness, being a stiff-necked people, is the reason that God should take the Israelites as God's people. How can that be? Well, our ancestors were not pushovers, as you could see from your Torah portion, right? They had a very strong collective and individual will, and they weren't so sure that the benefits of this covenant with this God that's really new to them, but we know is the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, they weren't so sure about this new God. They thought for themselves, even if this resulted in actions that went against what God wanted of them from time to time. But their acceptance of this covenant with God grew deeper and deeper over time, and it was one that could not be broken. It was deep and it was true because the humans who were partner to it didn't rubber stamp something that had already been decided for them. They wrestled with it, they argued about it, they rebelled against it, they complained about it, and they made it their own. So perhaps this fierce stubbornness of the Israelites actually made them, in the long run, stronger partners with God. Their covenant with God and this new relationship was repeatedly tested, and I think that perhaps it was stronger than if they had mindlessly accepted it. So a word that has the same 3-letter root as kashe is the word koshi, which means a difficult situation or a problem. Ma hakoshi shal Rashi. What is Rashi's difficulty? This is the question that has been asked by generations of students to determine how the brilliant medieval Torah commentator Rashi would solve problems and challenging passages in the Torah. So a koshi, in this case, is not just a problem, but a challenge to be met. And I would like to suggest that perhaps it was our ancestors' kashe oref, the stiff neck, that helped them to meet each koshi, each difficulty that they encountered along the way. Owen, we know that as you go forward, for sure you will make the best of challenging situations. And I hope that you will, when it's warranted, be stubborn when you continue to wrestle with the challenges that life presents us using the Torah as your guide. You have blessed us today with the beautiful way that you led our service with your interpretation of your Torah portion. And it's now, Cantor Shach, it's in my honor to give you the oldest blessing of our people. We would like to invite you and your mom and dad and Dylan and Caitlin to come forward to stand at the foot of the ark, facing the ark. And we would like to invite everyone to rise.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
Owen, may God bless you and watch over you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'ychuneka.
Owen, may the light of God's face always be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha.
Owen, may God's face always be turned to you as you go through your life and be with you whatever challenges you face. And may that light and peace from God always be a source of strength for you.
Amen. Stay here for a song. Taking your place in an enduring line. This is the day that you stood up to say, our tradition is mine. You have now read the Torah. It's been passed on to you. It's our law and our story, but each telling is new. It is said we stood at Sinai, and today you know you're there. You're the promise of a people, a blessing and a prayer. Lahalechet bidrachav, v'lishmor mitzvotav kol hayamim. May you walk in God's ways, and may all of your days be blessings. It is said we stood at Sinai, and today you know you're there. You're the promise of a people, a blessing and a prayer. You're the promise of a people, a blessing and a prayer. I'm going to ask the five of you, you can return to your seats, but stay standing. If everyone can stay standing, we're going to turn in our prayer books to beginning of our concluding prayers, page 282. Page 282 as we join in the chanting of Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liyotzer bereshit, shehu notes shamayim veyoser aretz, umoshav yikaro bashamayim ima'al, ushchinatu zo begovhei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, va'anachnu koreim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
As we remain standing, we turn to page 294, and together we recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish as we think of all those in our lives who have made us the people that we are, who are no longer living. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirhuteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chaye chon v'yomei chon, u'b'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agola v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach, le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalel shemei d'kudesha richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalamo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha, may the memories of all of our loved ones always be for blessing. Please be seated.
Owen, what a great day this was for you and your family, and for us, for our congregation. Mazel tov to you. Really awesome job. Awesome job. We have some gifts for you. First of all, your Bar Mitzvah certificate signed by Rabbi Bernstein, our Executive Director Jessica Ingram, and myself, along with some other certificates. There's a certificate here from the North American Federation of Temple Youth towards travel in Israel during your high school years, along with a certificate from our own youth group, Tristy, and a travel mug here for you. And then also we have a home prayer book from the women of TRS and a Kiddush cup from all of us on the clergy team for you. It's our hope that you will use it each Shabbat as you lift it up, you say L'chaim, and you remember this special moment in your life, continuing your Jewish journey. So mazel tov to you, mazel tov to your family, to the grandparents, all the people that are here in the sanctuary, all of our people who are on watching on streaming or on Zoom, mazel tov to all of you. For those of you on Zoom, we'd love for you to stay on Zoom, even though our service will conclude in just a few moments. Please stay on Zoom because Owen and Jen and Steve will join you in another room here in the building so that they can talk with you, and you guys can shower your praise on Owen at that point. For all of you, thank you for being with us, and we hope that there'll be another opportunity to celebrate. I know we have Caitlin's Bat Mitzvah coming up in 3 years or 2 years or whenever it is. So we'll look forward to seeing you all back and hopefully in person, everybody at that time. So are we ready for our closing song?
We're ready for our closing song, which is Ein Keloheinu, right?
Ein Keloheinu on page 322. Please rise and remain standing for our closing song and our final benediction. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kel Malkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mich Eloheinu, Mich Adonenu, Mich El Malkeinu, Mich Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel El Malkeinu, Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. As we all go forth on this Shabbat, may we find blessing in the words, the wisdom, and the teachings of Owen on this Shabbat. May, Owen, you bless us with, or may we bless you on the journey that is ahead of you as a young adult celebrating your Judaism. May you continue to be a light for all of those people like you were in your mitzvah project for the people that you have helped. May you continue to shine that light on the people of this world who need people like you to help them through difficult times. May all of us have a Shabbat Shalom, Adonai Oz le'amo yitain, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. May God grant strength to all of our people and bless us all with peace. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.